I hear the scream first. Too high. Piercing. Not a sound that belongs on my Kentucky farm. Not that sound. Never that sound. My coffee mug crashes to the porch as I bolt down the steps, boots hammering across sun-baked dirt. The morning light cuts golden through the oaks, but there's nothing peaceful about this day anymore. Something's wrong. Another scream slices the air. Fern, my prize mare. I round the corner of the barn at a full sprint and freeze. 20 yards ahead, inside the east paddock, my beautiful chestnut mare dances backward, ears pinned flat. Jet, the untested, barely handled rescue stallion we took in last week, rears up, hooves slashing the air just inches from Fern's flanks. His eyes roll white with panic, nostrils flare, red and furious. And there stands my 19-year-old sister, Madison, leaning against the fence, phone raised, filming. "They look cute together, don't they?" she says, not even looking up. My heart slams against my ribs as I move toward the gate, slow, measured steps. One wrong move could end in a shattered leg, years of breeding work lost, or worse. "Don't move," I say, voice calm, steady. "Don't speak. Don't do anything." Madison rolls her eyes but stays put. I ease through the gate, slow and deliberate. Fern spots me and whinnies again, a desperate sound, one that twists my stomach. I've known this mare since she took her first wobbly steps in my foaling barn 7 years ago. 5 agonizing minutes later, they're separated. Fern is safe in her paddock. Jet is secured in the round pen. My hands shake as I run them along Fern's warm neck, checking for injuries. "What exactly were you thinking?" I ask Madison, who's still scrolling her phone like she's reviewing a TikTok she just posted. "I was trying to help speed up your breeding program," she shrugs, like she just rearranged my kitchen cabinets. "You said Fern was ready to breed this season, with a carefully selected disease-tested stallion, not with a rescue who hasn't even cleared quarantine." My voice trembles from restraint. "I specifically told you Jet stays isolated until his blood work clears." Madison glances up, expression bored. "It would have been fine if you hadn't overreacted." It hits me like a slap. This wasn't a mistake. She deliberately ignored my instructions. Instructions that can mean life or death on a horse farm. Just last week, I stood in this exact spot, waving goodbye to our parents' SUV as it disappeared down the driveway, dropping Madison off for her character-building summer. "She needs to learn responsibility from someone she respects," Mom had said, not meeting my eyes. What she meant was, "We've tried everything else. We give up." I laid out the expectations clearly. This is a working farm, not a vacation. There are rules here for a reason. Madison rolled her eyes then, too, especially when I walked her through the new horse quarantine protocols. "Whatever," she muttered, already texting. The red flags had piled up all week, expensive tack left out in the rain, ignoring safety briefings to scroll through Instagram. Yesterday, the half-hidden beer bottles behind the hay shed, despite my strict no-alcohol rule. But this was different. This was deliberate endangerment of animals worth tens of thousands of dollars. Animals I love. I yank out my phone with a white-knuckled grip and call the emergency vet. "We need blood work on both horses immediately," I tell Dr. Hefner. "And Fern might need a sedative. She's badly spooked." Madison doesn't even look up. Still texting, foot propped on a fence post like she's watching paint dry. Dr. Hefner arrives in 30 minutes. Her face is grim as she checks both horses. "You're lucky you didn't have deaths today," she says softly, glancing at Madison, who's wandered off toward the barn. "A stallion in that state could have killed your mare or anyone who got between them." I watch her work, something cold and clear settling inside me. Madison returns with a soda from my fridge. I meet her eyes. "Pack your things," I say, quiet but sharp as wire. "You're leaving. Now." She blinks, genuinely surprised. "Because of this? Don't be so dramatic." "Because some mistakes can't be undone." I turn back to the vet. My decision is solid, like the fence post set in concrete. And this wasn't even a mistake. What would you do if someone you tried to help deliberately endangered everything you've spent your life building? Would you forgive family for risking lives? Or would you draw a line? I just drew mine. $2,300. The invoice glows on my laptop screen at 2:13 a.m., an itemized list like a slap in the face. The house is quiet, except for my ragged breathing and the slow ticking of Grandpa's wall clock. Emergency farm call, $175. Sedation, mare, $120, full blood panel. Stallion, $460, full blood panel. Mare, $460. I rub my gritty eyes. My shoulders ache. 6 hours since Dr. Hefner left. 6 hours since I watched Madison's borrowed suitcase disappear into our parents' car, her face blank in the window. Rabies and tetanus boosters, $198, antibiotic injections, $245. Follow-up visit scheduled, $95. The numbers blur. I shut the laptop and push back from Grandpa's oak desk. Down the hallway, past framed ribbons and certificates from 30 years of breeding. I step onto the back porch. The night air smells of Timothy hay and distant pine. I walk toward Fern's paddock. The flashlight cuts through the dark. Fern stands quietly in her stall, ears pricking forward at my approach. The bandage on her flank glows white under the beam of light. "Hey, pretty girl." My whisper breaks the silence. "How you holding up?" Fern pushes her velvet muzzle into my palm. A sob catches in my throat, raw, unexpected. "They could have died today." My fingers trace the curve of her neck, finding the barely there tremble still running beneath her skin. I'm sorry, the words fall into the darkness. I should have known better. Back in the house, my phone buzzes against the kitchen counter. I don't have to look. I already know. Madison's Instagram story autoplays when I open the app. She's in the frame, her face pressed close to our mother's, both wearing matching frowns of wounded indignation. The caption reads, "Some people just can't take a simple mistake." Below it, the comments stack up relatives I haven't heard from in years, hometown friends with more opinions than context. She was only trying to help, so dramatic. Family comes first no matter what. Give her another chance, she's just a kid, just a kid. The words stick like burrs. Madison is 19, old enough to vote, old enough to join the military, old enough to know that actions have consequences, old enough to know exactly what she was doing. A text from Aunt Martha pops up. She's heartbroken. She was just trying to be helpful around the farm. I don't reply. Instead, I open my laptop and pull up the security footage Marco insisted we install last spring. The timestamps tell the truth. Madison walking past 3 clear quarantine signs on Jet's enclosure. Madison studying the lock mechanism. Madison scrolling her phone casually while leading Jet toward Fern's paddock. Not a mistake, a choice. A memory floats up. My cousin's wedding, 2 years ago. Madison accidentally spilling red wine on the bride's mother after being told her dress was inappropriate. The borrowed boat that came back with a busted propeller. The same pattern, repeating for years. My fingers hover over the invoice on my screen. One click would forward it to my parents with a payment request. One click to make it clear. I will no longer absorb the cost of Madison's choices. Behind me, 3 generations of horses stare down from their frames, my grandfather's first Tennessee Walker. My grandmother's bloodline charts and confirmation notes, my own first blue ribbon at 12. 23 years of building something that matters. My mouse settles over the forward button. No more, I whisper to the empty room. The sun breaks over the eastern ridge as Marco steps through the barn door, travel mug in hand. His weathered face tightens when he spots the yellow invoice on the clipboard. Jesus, he mutters, scanning the charges. She could have killed them both. I know. You send it to your folks yet? I nod. 20 minutes ago. Marco rests a hand briefly on my shoulder. About damn time. 10 minutes later, my phone rings. Mom's name flashes on the screen. Cassidy Ann Harmon, what is this? Her voice already high with indignation. $2,000? She's just a girl, she made a mistake. Out the window, a red-tailed hawk circles the east pasture, wings catching golden light. She deliberately put my animals in danger after I explicitly told her not to, I say evenly. She was trying to help. No, she wasn't. My voice stays calm, even surprising myself. The security footage shows otherwise. This is ridiculous Dad's voice now, cutting in from the extension. You've always been too hard on her. She came home devastated. I close my eyes, feel Marco's solid presence nearby, feel the years of sweat beneath my boots, feel the quiet strength of a line, finally drawn. This isn't about punishment, I say. It's about consequences. I end the call before they can respond. Out in the barn, life continues. Hay needs hauling, troughs need filling, and Fern needs her morning check for the first time since Madison arrived. I breathe freely on my own land. Have you ever had to stand firm when family expected you to quietly carry the weight of someone else's carelessness? What price is too high to pay to keep the peace? My phone buzzes. For the 9th time this morning, I don't need to check it. Another guilt-laced message from another well-meaning relative. I slide it face down on the old oak desk, the same one Grandpa used to use to calculate feed ratios and breeding charts back when this farm first took root in Oregon soil. The messages started 3 days ago. By yesterday, they became a flood. She's just a teenager, Cassidy. We all make mistakes. Aunt Marlene, you've always been too hard on her. Uncle Rick, remember when you were 18 and crashed Dad's truck? Which they conveniently forget I paid to repair. Call me, we need to talk about the Madison situation. Mom, 7 times. I slide open the bottom drawer. Inside, screen captures of every message, every voicemail transcription, every missed call. The folder's thick now. On top sits Dr. Hefner's incident report and the invoice from the security system company. Marco steps in with a clipboard from the feed shed. His eyes scan my face, reading the tension before he even speaks. Feed store called. Your order's ready. He hesitates. Joyce said, people are talking about Madison. I nod once, jaw set. What version are they hearing? That you threw your baby sister out over nothing, that she was just trying to help and made a little mistake. He looks at me, steady as always. Joyce said she set them straight about what could have happened. But folks love drama more than facts. Aunt Lydia called the farm line yesterday, I say. Madison gave some tearful interview about how I've always hated her, said I was just waiting for an excuse. The words stick like grit in my throat. Apparently I'm jealous, because she's the pretty one. Marco snorts. I'll have Hank install the new security cameras today. Both gates. I nod, grateful, not just for his efficiency, but for someone who sees the truth and stays. I found the padlocks unlatched, not broken unlatched. Someone used a key. I'll be in the tack room, I tell Marco. The Portland client's coming at 11 to see the Whisper Colt. As I walk away, I realize something's changed. The knot of guilt I've carried since Madison left, it's gone. In its place, something hard, clear, like quartz crystal. Not anger, not resentment, just certainty. The farmer's market hums under a cloudless Oregon sky. Saturday crowds drift between stalls of wildflowers, sourdough, and goat cheese. I'm here for Theo's coffee beans and to drop off flyers for next month's open house. Then I see them, Mom, Dad, and Madison, clustered near the honey stand. Madison leans against Dad's shoulder, looking fragile in a way she never once appeared at my farm. I could turn around, walk away, avoid the confrontation that's clearly been staged for maximum public effect. I don't, Cassidy, Mom's voice rings out, rising above the market chatter. Heads turn. Right on cue, thank goodness. We've been trying to reach you. I walk toward them slowly, painfully aware of the eyes tracking every step. Mrs. Hanover from the Quilt Guild, Tom from the hardware store, Pastor Wells and his wife. This isn't the place, I say softly when I reach them. Mom's eyes flash. Apparently nowhere is the place. Since you won't return our calls or messages, you've left us no choice. Madison sniffles, drawing sympathetic glances from strangers. You're tearing this family apart over money, Mom says loudly, voice deliberately pitched for the crowd. $2,000 over your own sister? The unfairness stuns me. $2,000 and 2 horses nearly killed. $2,000 and a deliberate violation of biosecurity and quarantine. $2,000 and a betrayal that could have destroyed my life's work. Dad steps forward, using that intimidating stance honed by 30 years in real estate. You need to reconsider your position, Cassidy. Family comes first. A small crowd has gathered now, pretending interest in produce, but really watching us. I feel their judgment, feel the full weight of small-town scrutiny settle on my shoulders. I straighten, meet my father's gaze. You're right, I say quietly, but loud enough to carry. Family does come first. That's why I can't allow Madison back on my property. Gasps, murmurs. Madison's mouth drops open. Because family protects what matters. Family respects boundaries. Family doesn't endanger lives and then smirk about it. The sniffles vanish from her face. Her eyes narrow. I have video, I continue, my voice steady, of what happened. I have the vet's report. I have documentation of every single safety protocol Madison broke. And I have the legal right to decide who's welcome on my land. A voice calls from behind me. She's right, you know. Doctor. Hefner stands with a canvas tote over her arm, gray hair catching in the sun. What happened on Cassidy's farm could have ended in dead horses or people in the ER. In 30 years of veterinary work, I've rarely seen such blatant disregard for safety. From the cheese stall, Jim Cooper chimes in. Cassidy runs the best breeding operation in the county. If she says it was dangerous, it was damn dangerous. The crowd shifts. Murmurs turn. I don't say another word. I walk away. Leaving them standing silent, staged performance ruined beneath a perfect summer sky. When I return home, Marco's waiting at the gate, arms crossed. Your folks showed up while you were gone, he says. Got pretty worked up when I wouldn't let them in. Hank had to suggest they leave before he called the sheriff. I nod. Thanks. That night, I brush Fern's gleaming coat by lantern light. The rhythmic strokes soothe us both. She leans into the curry comb, eyes half closed. You know what Grandpa used to say about fences, I murmur? A fence isn't just to keep things out, it's to protect what's within. My phone sits silent on the shelf. Notifications turned off hours ago. For the first time since Madison's banishment, I sleep. Deep. Dreamless. Morning finds me on the porch, coffee in hand. Steam rising in the dawn light. My horses move like shadows through the mist-blanketed pastures. The boundaries I've drawn stand as firm as the fences cross-hatched across my land. Not to punish, not out of spite, but to protect what matters. The manila folder is thick in my hands, heavy with documentation I never wanted to collect. Through the kitchen window, I watch Fern grazing, her chestnut coat lit by morning sun. It's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks since Madison's recklessness. And my mare still startles at sudden sounds. I flip open the folder. Security screenshots fan out across the table, Madison unlatching Jet's stall, removing the quarantine sign, leading him straight toward Fern. Timestamps don't lie. They match exactly what I told my parents, what they still refuse to believe. You think this is enough? Marco asks, arms folded, leaning against the fridge. Has to be. I slide Dr. Hefner's report next to the photos. Her clinical words don't sugarcoat reality. Significant stress-induced immune compromise. Potential exposure to multiple pathogens. Breeding value potentially compromised. Marco watches as I assemble the timeline, even the witness statement from the feed delivery guy who saw Madison ignore my instructions. Finally, I place Janine's letter on top, my attorney's words in cold, clear, legal language. Outlined liability, documented negligence. My phone buzzes again. Mom. Blood is thicker than water. Cassidy, family comes first, always. I silence it. Another ping. Dad. You keep this up and we'll need to reconsider your place in the will. Subtle, Marco mutters, reading over my shoulder. Then my laptop chimes. 3 new 1-star reviews on my farm's business page. All from anonymous accounts, freshly created accounts, vague complaints about unprofessional behavior and a hostile environment. All anonymous. But I recognize Madison's phrasing. They're escalating, I tell Marco. The video from Madison arrives next. Her face tear-streaked, voice cracking with what might look like genuine remorse to someone who doesn't know her patterns. I've learned my lesson, Cass, I promise. Please let me come back. I close it before it finishes. She's good. She's always been good. I slide Janine's cover letter on top of the stacked documents. Facts without accusation, events without emotion. Below it, the boundary statement. 3 paragraphs that took me hours to write. What reconciliation would require. What is non-negotiable? What will never happen again? This isn't about punishment, I tell Marco, sealing the envelope. It's about protection. My hand doesn't shake as I drop it in the outgoing mail bin. The community charity auction buzzes with laughter and small talk until I walk in. Conversations dim as I move through the crowd. I spot my parents across the room. Their faces tighten the moment they see me. Mom grips Dad's arm and whispers urgently. Several heads nod in my direction. Fellow horse owners, people who understand what Madison's actions truly meant. Betty Lawrence, the county's most respected breeder, walks straight toward me. Heard what happened, she says loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. You did right by those horses. Some folks don't understand our responsibility to these animals isn't optional. I feel my parents' eyes burning into my back. But the whispers this time, they're not Madison's version of the story. Janine's cease and desist for the fake reviews went out yesterday. And in a town like ours, word spreads fast. I offer no explanation, no defense. I don't need to. My silence speaks volumes. 2 days later, I'm brushing Fern when Marco jogs across the paddock, phone in hand. You need to see this. On his screen, the local Facebook group where Madison has spent the last week painting herself as the victim. But this time, a respected trainer has posted a detailed professional explanation of why putting an untested stallion in with a high-value broodmare is not just careless, it's dangerous. Other comments follow, fellow breeders, longtime clients, even Dr. Hefner herself, no names mentioned, just calm, expert clarity that shreds Madison's version without ever touching her directly. She's gone quiet, Marco says, scrolling through her now inactive profiles. No new posts since yesterday. Then my phone buzzes, a text from Mom. I brace myself for another guilt trip. But what I read makes me pause. I saw the vet's report. We need to talk. Before I can respond, another message. Dad. Not quite an apology, but the closest he's capable of. Your grandfather would have done the same thing. Then a third text, Aunt Celia, who'd firmly stood behind Madison until now. Just spoke with your mother. I think I misunderstood what happened. I set the phone down. My reflection stares back from the tack room mirror, steady. The first cracks are showing. Not surrender, not forgiveness, but fractures in the wall of denial, the boundaries I've drawn. They aren't just fences to keep people out, they're foundations to build something that lasts. Where do you draw the line between forgiveness and enabling? When do you stop turning the other cheek and start protecting what matters? I see them through the window of Porter's Steakhouse, my family, clustered around a corner booth like mourners at a wake. Mom straightens the silverware. Dad checks his watch. Uncle Jim swirls his whiskey. Madison's eyes are glued to her phone, thumbs tapping in rapid fire. My stomach tightens. You sure about this? Marco asks quietly beside me. No, I admit, but I'm doing it anyway. The door feels heavy as I push it open. Heads turn. Not just my family's other diners, too. People who recognize me from the feed store, the market. Small towns, remember. Mom spots me first. Her face lights up with rehearsed relief. Cassidy, we saved you a seat. She pats the empty chair between her and Dad. I slide into the opposite end instead, placing Marco on my right. The power shift is instant, visible. Their shoulders stiffen, eyes flick to Marco confused. This is Marco Delgado, my stable manager, I say calmly. He's here as a witness. Dad's jaw tightens. A witness? Cassidy, this is a family dinner, not a court proceeding, is it? I fold my hands on the table, because the text I received mentioned intervention. Mom sets down her water glass with a deliberate clink. Her smile is too tight. We're concerned about your spiritual well-being, honey. Holding on to resentment like this? It's not what good Christians do. Forgiveness is a virtue, Uncle Jim chimes in, leaning forward. Finally, Madison looks up, her eyes rimmed in red. Tears ready on cue. I made a mistake, Cass. I'm really sorry. Your grandmother would want us to make peace, Dad says softly. The Harmon legacy matters. Blood doesn't break over one incident. I place my leather portfolio on the table, unbuckle the flap. Inside, neatly stacked documents. This wasn't an incident, I say, voice steady. It was deliberate endangerment. Jet was a rescue stallion, unknown medical history. Fern is a $30,000 broodmare. I slide a photo across the table. Jet's hooves inches from Fern's head. She was screaming. I still hear it in my sleep. Madison shifts in her seat. You've always been so dramatic, I interrupt. Dr. Hefner's report, I say, sliding it forward. Severe trauma, disrupted breeding cycle, months of recovery. Uncle Jim clears his throat. Okay, what if we split the difference? You drop all this legal talk, and Madison promises to be more careful. Compromise, it's how families work. I straighten my spine. I'm not interested in compromise, I say, voice even. I'm interested in respect. Mom reaches for my hand. I pull back. For any relationship to continue between us, I continue. I need 3 things, non-negotiable. I withdraw another document from the leather portfolio and place it squarely on the table. First payment of the vet bill, $2,347.18. This acknowledges responsibility. Dad's face flushes deep red. Second, a public apology. Posted to the same social media accounts where Madison damaged my professional reputation with false claims. Madison's practiced tears disappear. Her jaw clenches. Third, complete respect for my property and business boundaries going forward. A written statement confirming that my farm, my horses, and my rules are to be respected without question. I close the portfolio. The terms hang in the air like a held breath. That's ridiculous! Dad explodes, slamming his fist against the table. Water glasses topple. You think your horses matter more than your own flesh and blood? Richard, Mom gasps, her polished facade cracking. I'm done pretending, Dad says, voice rising. She's always been impossible, judgmental, just like her grandmother, thinks she's better than the rest of us. Mom's shoulders slump, but this time the tears are real, not careful, not controlled, just broken. We tried everything, she whispers. Why won't you just let it go? I look her in the eye. Because some things shouldn't be let go. My voice is quiet, but it forces them to lean in. Some boundaries once crossed change everything. Madison's face shifts, her false remorse evaporating into open resentment. You think you're so perfect, she spits. Up on your precious farm, some of us make mistakes. Some of us aren't ancient and boring at 35. Cassidy, please, Mom pleads. She's young, she doesn't understand. Exactly, I say, standing. Marco rises beside me without a word. You've never expected her to understand consequences. Dad shoves his chair back. If you walk out that door, Don't expect what? I interrupt. The same unconditional support you've always given me? A bitter laugh escapes me before I can stop it. Madison snorts. Drama queen. I level my gaze at all of them. The vet bill is due by the end of the month, I say, quiet but clear. The rest is up to you. We walk out. Their silence presses against my back. The evening air hits my face like freedom. In the truck, Marco waits until I've buckled my seatbelt. You okay? I glance back toward the restaurant. See my family still frozen in the wreckage of the storm they never saw coming. No, I answer honestly. But I will be. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Some shouldn't be. And that realization, it doesn't feel like loss, it feels like solid ground. Morning frost crunches beneath my boots as I cross the east paddock. 1 year. 365 sunrises since I watched my parents' SUV disappear down the gravel drive, Madison's angry face in the rear window. I pause at the fence line, where it happened, where Jet's hooves slashed the air just inches from Fern's flank while my sister filmed with a smile. The memory doesn't burn anymore. It just aches like an old brake that tells you when rain's coming. Good girl, I murmur as Fern trots over, her chestnut coat gleaming in the dawn light. Behind her, 3 spring foals dance through the mist, the first generation of my expanded breeding program. Bloodlines, carefully chosen. Temperaments, meticulously matched. No accidents, no shortcuts. Marco appears in the barn doorway, clipboard in hand. New client called. The Hendersons want to see the Northern Lights colt. He grins, words getting around about Clearwater standards. I nod, allowing myself a quiet moment of pride. The waiting list grows every month. Serious buyers, willing to pay premium prices for confirmed lineage and consistent handling. My reputation, once threatened, has grown stronger than ever. Katie's coming at 4 for her lesson, Marco adds. Katie Sullivan, 14 years old, natural seat, eyes that light up around horses, not like Madison's distracted indifference. Katie listens, stays late, asks smart questions, doesn't scroll through her phone while stallions panic. I'll have Northern Light ready for the Hendersons, Marco says, turning toward the barn. I glance at the western paddock, where Jet grazes peacefully. The gelding operation last summer changed him, transformed him from dangerous stallion to gentle companion. Another careful decision, another right one. That evening, as darkness settles over the valley, I find myself on the back porch, surrounded by the people who stood beside me when it mattered most. Marco, his husband, Dr. Hefner, 2 neighboring farmers. We toast with glasses of Oregon Pinot Noir. To clear boundaries, Dr. Hefner says, raising her glass. She knows what it cost me. The gathering is simple, honest, no drama, no manipulation, just friendship built on mutual respect. That night fills something in me that family dinners never could. Peace, belonging without conditions. Mom calls every other Sunday now. The conversations are careful, like walking on thin ice, but they're genuine. She asks about the horses by name, sends birthday cards without guilt folded inside. Small steps. Dad hasn't spoken to me since that night at Riverbank Restaurant, when I laid the evidence on the table and walked away. Some fences once built stay standing. The rest of the family split like a scattered herd. Some followed my parents' lead. Others reached out, quiet, cautious, but open. After the dust settled, Aunt Kate sent a note. Your grandfather would have been proud of how you protected what matters. It arrived exactly 1 year to the day. That same morning, a new letter arrived. Madison's handwriting, cream stationery, Seattle postmark. I carry it to Fern's paddock, needing her steady presence beside me. Inside, I knew what I was doing that day. I knew the horses weren't supposed to be together. I wanted to prove you couldn't control everything. What I didn't understand is that someone could have died. Fern, Jet, even you. I didn't think about consequences because no one ever made me face them. You were the only one who held the line. Everyone else just moved theirs. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just wanted you to know. I finally understand what you were protecting. No apology, no request to return, just a truth I'd waited a lifetime to hear. I fold the letter carefully and tuck it into my jacket. Fern nudges my shoulder. Across the property, Jet lifts his head at the sound of feed bins. Maybe someday, I whisper, but not today. The sunset paints long shadows across the valley. I stand between 2 securely fenced fields, hand resting on the metal gate that separates them. A boundary visible from space, not a prison, a protection. Fern approaches from one side, Jet from the other. Both stop at a respectful distance. Both waiting, both trusting me to decide. Some lines shouldn't be crossed, I say to the dusk. That's not coldness. That's care.